Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews and a special Christmas versus night. Now, this one I will be comparing Miracle on 34th Street from 1947 versus Miracle on 34th Street from 1994. So, let's start this one with the leads. Now, the leads in the 1947 version are Maureen O'Hara and John Payne. The leads in the 1994 version are Elizabeth Perkins and Dylan McDermott. There is a difference between the way that they're basically playing the same characters in those. Whereas I do kind of like in the 94 version how Elizabeth and Dylan's variations of the characters start a actual romance and start going out on dates. The way that it is directed toward later in the, not really later in the film, but just a few minutes after that initial date that they do, ends up having him propose to her in a weird way, and then she just completely flat out rejects him, so it just kills that whole thing. Whereas the 47 version, Maureen O'Hara and John Payne it's a slow build toward them having this romantic relationship. They don't really ever go out on a date because he's always saying that she keeps rejecting, him because she's too busy at work. But there's a point, after Kringle is getting ready to be put on trial, that they show them about to go on a date, and it's like, where did this come from? It just happens, unfortunately. In the 47 version, John Payne decides on his own to defend Kris Kringle, because he's always been on his side and he's always believed in him. Whereas Maureen O'Hara's character didn't. Doris does not believe in Santa Claus at all, and she doesn't believe Kris Kringle. She thinks he's just a crazy old man. Whereas in the 94 version, it's Elizabeth Perkins' version of the Doris-style character named Dora for whatever reason. And she talks Dylan McDermott's version of the character into defending Kris, which is, before she didn't believe, and now she's all of a sudden, see, she believes a lot quicker in the remake here than Maureen O'Hara's version does. Maureen O'Hara's version of the character does not really believe in Kringle until she sees the letter her daughter has written, and then she puts down on there, writing right underneath it, that she believes in him too. Whereas Elizabeth Perkins' version of the character in the remake, she just immediately just starts to believe way sooner in there. So, I think the part I liked about the 94 version was, like I said, them going out on starting the date thing, but then they killed it. But I think it's better played in the 47 version, even though it does come out of nowhere when he's coming to take her out on a date, and everything prior has shown that she's been rejecting that. But yeah, I'm going to give this point to Miracle on 34th Street, 1947. All right, let's move on to supporting. Supporting cast on the 47 version is Edmund Gwynn, Gene Lockhart, Natalie Wood, Porter Hall, Jerome Cowan, and William Frawley. Supporting cast in the 94 version is Richard Attenborough, Robert Prosky, Mara Wilson, Jack McGee, J.T. Walsh, and Joss Ackland. I'll get to some of this more on story, but comparing the roles that these characters are playing, Edmund Gwynn's version of Kris Kringle is, I think he's perfect. I really do. And I love Richard Attenborough. But I think the way that his character was written was a little ham-fisted. I think the Edmund Gwynn's version of the character was better written in a much more fitting way, especially for a Christmas film. Gene Lockhart plays the judge in the 47 version, and he's likable, but he's also got William Frawley's character putting pressure on him to not, vote the wrong way on this trial and everything. And Robert Prosky plays the same character, the judge character in the 94 version, and in some ways I think he's played a little better, because the only little tidbit of that you get with Robert Prosky is that J.T. Walsh's character is putting a little bit of a pressure on him, but it's not carried over as much as it is with the William Frawley character in the 47. So I think Prosky might be more my favorite as far as the judge character. I think he did a hell of a job. Natalie Wood is the daughter, and she is the one that has to be convinced by Kris Kringle. Whereas in the 94 version, it's Mara Wilson. And much like Elizabeth Perkins in the lead, Mara Wilson just seems to start believing in him a lot easier than Natalie Wood's version. And, so it's kind of Natalie Wood's version of the character. It's her idea. She wants Santa to give her a house to prove that he's really Santa. In the 94 version, it is Elizabeth Perkins' version of the mother that suggests to Mara Wilson's character that she should do something to make him prove himself to her, which I don't like that idea. When that happened in the movie, I was like, really? The one thing that the little girl did on her own to try and prove that Chris is Santa or not, you're going to give credit to Elizabeth Perkins on. Okay. But yeah, Mara Wilson does a good job on it, but I think Natalie Wood's version is more likable in the role. I mean, Mara Wilson's character is likable, but she is much easier influenced by Chris than what Natalie's character was. And plus the whole that they added, instead of just the house in the '94 version, they have her asking for the house, a little brother, and a daddy. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa! Why are you going that far? Why are you going that far with it? The house was just fine the way it was in the original. So, the instigator of what gets Chris in trouble, it was Porter Hall, as this wannabe psychiatrist that works at the store at Macy's. And he is a complete douche of a character. And he just pressures and pressures Edmund Gwynn's version of Chris until he hits him in the head with his cane. And he just taps him. He doesn't even really hit him that hard. And then he, falls back and everything, and then plays it up like he really hurt him bad. That role in this one, they throw to Jack McGee's character, who is also playing the Santa that Richard Attenborough replaced earlier, because he was drunk on duty. Whereas in the original '47 movie, Edmund Gwynn replaces a completely different guy, and he doesn't even make another appearance in the film. He's not out for revenge or anything. Whereas Jack McGee's character is just, paid money by the villains of the story to be a douche to Richard Attenborough's character and instigate him into trying to hit him. And again, in this one, he doesn't even really hit him at all. He goes to swing the cane at him, and he catches it, and then he falls down and pretends that he's hit, while James Remar and his little girlfriend character take pictures of it and everything. So it was a setup. Porter Hall sets up Edmund Gwynn, but he sets him up in a much more believable manner, in my opinion. Jerome Cowan plays the lawyer who is trying to prove that Edmund Gwynn's Kris Kringle is not Santa. Whereas in the 1994 version, J.T. Walsh is playing that character. I think Jerome Cowan was a much more likable version of this character. He has moments where he is wondering why he's even taken this case. He wishes he hadn't. Whereas J.T. Walsh has fully embraced it. He is just completely in villain mode and just is wanting to get Richard Attenborough and get to him and antagonize him and constantly get him to jump up and voice his opinions toward the bull that J.T. Walsh is saying. And then you have in the 94 version, as opposed to William Frawley in the original, you have Joss Ackland playing the owner of the competing store. And he is played like a villain. It's like they brought over Joss Ackland's Lethal Weapon 2 character and just threw him into Miracle on 34th Street. kind of minus the accent, but his character is still just as diabolical and evil in the things he's doing. And it's like, this is a Christmas movie. Why are you throwing that in there? William Frawley is just trying to convince the judge, Gene Lockhart, that you're up for re-election. You need to, you can't be, doing stuff. And he was on the side of Santa in a way, but only because he knows that if Gene Lockhart's judge ends up saying that there is no Santa Claus, that his re-election to judge is questionable. So Joss's version of the character is just a full-on villain. William Frawley's is more, he's just a questionable character is all. So whereas I like Robert Prosky and I really like Richard Attenborough, I really think Edmund Gwynn's version of Kris Kringle is much more likable in there. As is Natalie Wood is better. Whereas Robert Prosky's the best part of this supporting cast. So I am going to give supporting to Miracle on 34th Street, 1947. So let's move on to story. This is where I will get into more details on this stuff. The 1947 version of Miracle on 34th Street is a simple and fun film. It doesn't try to go too ham-fisted in its stuff in the story. It tries to just do it simply and in a fun way where there's hardly any character in it other than Porter Hall's wannabe psychiatrist that you generally don't like. He is the only villain, per se, in the 47 version of the film. Even, like I said, Jerome Cowan's lawyer, who is trying to prosecute Edmund Gwynn's Kris Kringle, he is not fully wanting to do what he's doing. So when you compare that to the 94 version, where it is more over the top with the villains that it has, and it has, you have J.T. Walsh, Joss Ackland, James Remar, and his little girlfriend. They're you have all these little, and then of course Jack McGee being paid off to be a complete douche to Santa, in the way that Porter Hall was. Where, like I said, Porter Hall was the only one that was like that in the original movie. Nobody else wanted to do bad things to Kris as a character. The 94 version really goes over the top on the villainy and the dramatics. And I don't think it was necessary. I really don't. And then some of the things that they had Jack McGee doing, he's making sexual references and stuff and everything. And this is a Christmas film. That stuff should not be in this film. I think that was over the line, I think. The way that the 47 version is written, it is written as a fun and enjoyable Christmas film that makes you love the characters, with the exception of Porter Hall's character. He's the only one that you generally just do not like, and they're like, man, he's a douche. They tried too hard to make the characters in 94's version too villainous and too evil. And I think it works as a detriment to the story instead of helping it. So this one too, I'm going to go with the 47 version. Now we get to direction. The 47 version was directed by George Seaton, who also wrote the story for it and screenplay. In the 94 version, it is directed by Les Mayfield, based on George Seaton's script. But the changes they made between it are just questionable to me. I think George Seaton did an excellent job directing the original film. Les Mayfield, like I said, they add way too much stuff to this. The drunken Santa thing in the original film was directed in a way where, yes, the Santa is drunk. Edmund Gwynn's Kris Kringle is upset that he's drunk. And he actually goes to Maureen O'Hara's character and complains to her about it. In the 94 version, they literally have him continuing to try to be Santa with Jack McGee's character, getting up there and trying to go ahead and do the stuff while he's drunk, and ends up, having a big accident, which could have hurt a lot of children and a lot of people. So it's like you're putting people in danger with this character, whereas in the original film, that Santa just passed out, and Maureen O'Hara just basically just takes the hat and says, "Get that uniform off of him," and then she goes to Chris and asks him to take his place, which he does. So it's moments like that, like I said, it goes too far over the top in the 94 version, where it wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary to go that far. It's the same way with the ending. Les Mayfield directs the ending in a way where he changes the way that Chris is redeemed in court. George Seaton makes it abundant that the people are on Chris's side. There's only one person that wanted to bring him down, and that was Porter Hall's character. And even, like I said, Jerome Cohen's lawyer is not really wanting to do what he's doing here. And it ends up being the post office getting all these letters to Santa, sending all those letters to the courthouse, to Kris Kringle, that lets Gene Lockhart's judge go, all right, well, if the post office, believes and, that this man is Santa, then we all should. That was a fine way to do it. Whereas in Les Mayfield's version, they do this whole thing where Dylan McDermott, his character, ends up looking at a dollar bill and sees on it, "In God We Trust," and it goes into the whole thing of we believe in God and there's no proof that He exists, so why should we not believe that this character, Santa exists, and all this stuff. And it's just, I think it was much better handled with the post office variation of the ending instead of the way that the 94 version did it. I'm going to give direction to George Seaton with the 47 version. So you're keeping track, this is the second, this is the second versus night that one of the films has made a clean sweep. This time it was the original. By Eddie and the Cruisers one, it was the sequel that I gave all 4 points to. So, but what do you guys think of the Miracle on 34th Street movies? Do you agree with my comparison here that the 47 version is superior to the 94 version? Or do you think that I'm wrong and that the 94 version is better? Let me know in those comments down below. And as usual, if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to click that bell icon to be notified about future videos just like this one. And while you're by the subscribe button, click that join button and become a Dark Knight fan. Hope you've enjoyed tonight's versus night, and I hope you will join us tomorrow for another horror movie night. Thanks for watching.